What is good, YouTube? Welcome back for another banger. On this channel we discuss everything cryptocurrency investing. Today in crypto, former IMF deputy director says he believes in Bitcoin as a hedge and was a holder. The former US Treasury Secretary says Bitcoin is here to stay, and the new Treasury Sec actually urges Congress to print and to go big. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So we're going to hear from Mohamed El-Erian. But first of all, who is Mohamed El-Erian? Mohamed El-Erian is the Chief Economic Advisor at Allianz. Allianz is the biggest insurance company on the globe, based in Europe. And he is the current president of the Queen's College in Cambridge. And more importantly, he spent 15 years at the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, where he served as deputy director before moving to the private sector. So now, let's hear what his thoughts on Bitcoin are.
Speaking as a sort of more traditional investor, but that understands both price action and the mentality of investors when they're making an investment, particularly in light of the price moves that we've seen. Mohamed, your wisdom on Bitcoin?
So I don't know, it's wisdom, because I bought Bitcoins when they dipped below 5,000 and I sold them at 19,000, and I thought, well, wow, I'm really smart.
That's
just
a profit.
to go all the way up to 40,000. Hey. So I'm not sure it's wisdom, but this is how people should think. This time around, because this is the third big surge in Bitcoin prices, this time around you have a solid foundation of long-term holders. They have been brought together by fear about inflation, fear about liquidity, mistrust in institutions, looking for more risk mitigation assets. I mean, a whole host of reasons bringing them together. That is a solid foundation. That's why I don't think you'll ever see Bitcoins back down at 4,000. However, above that is a really big layer of speculation. People realize that Bitcoins can move by 4-5% a day. And that, of course, attracts people. We saw last week, fascinating, that when the stimulus checks hit people's account, quite a few of those dollars ended up buying Bitcoins. So people are speculating on Bitcoin. So I tell people, just be careful, because I understand the solid foundation, but on top of that, you've got a big speculator layer. So just make sure you can manage through that. Because as we saw on Sunday, Monday, that price can fall by 20% in 48 hours.
Yeah, you've got to be prepared for volatility. I mean, there will be people watching this going, all the reasons that you suggested are a reason for buying into Bitcoin still exist and will continue to exist in 2021.
So I do think Bitcoins are going to continue to establish themselves, but it's important to know what they establish themselves as. They're establishing themselves as part of the payment system. They're establishing themselves as a holding in a portfolio, 1%, 2%. What they're not establishing themselves as is a global currency. Central banks will not allow that to happen. And I think it's important because that gives you a bound of valuation. Clearly not zero, because they exist in the ecosystem. But it's not, I hear some people saying it's going to 400,000. I don't think so. So, just understand it's a huge range, but understand it's bounded by some reality.
So just to recap, Mohamed said Bitcoin this time has a solid foundation compared to the 2017 bull run, where he had previously said that it was driven by speculation and it was overvalued and in a bit of a bubble. He says beware of volatility, as volatility will be coming. Investors, especially retail, will be chasing the 5, 10, 15% price bumps in a day. Also pointed out that institutions and people should be allocating small proportions of their wealth and their portfolio to Bitcoin as a hedge. But he also reined it in slightly by saying he doesn't believe Bitcoin is going to go to the 400,000 that some people are predicting, but he also doesn't believe Bitcoin is going to go to zero. So I guess he has a more conservative valuation in the short to mid-term period, kind of like myself. My price target is around the 100s to the 150k mark for 2021, but I do believe Bitcoin will one day become the global reserve currency or assets, and we'll hit the 400, the 500, the $1 million mark, but maybe that's in a 5 to 10 year time frame as opposed to the 1 year time frame predictions we were getting for the $400,000 Bitcoin. But yeah, incredibly smart man, smarter than myself, president of Queen's College, Cambridge, chief economic advisor at Allianz, and the former deputy director at the IMF. So, yeah, I'd probably pay attention to what he has to say. And in line with allocating proportions of wealth to Bitcoin, it's clear and apparent, guys, I'm going to keep on raining this down your necks, that whales and institutional investors are buying up all of the Bitcoin. As you can see, Grayscale once again started and reopened January 2021 purchasing Bitcoin. Today, they purchased $600 million worth of Bitcoin. So in 24 hours, they purchased 16,244 Bitcoin in a single day. One day. Previously, day before, they raised $700 million. $700 million, its largest daily asset raise ever. So they now have almost $29 billion assets under management, and they now control over 3% of the circulating supply. This is whales, guys, allocating massive proportions of their capital to Bitcoin. We heard from Guggenheim Investments, who have over $239 billion worth of assets deployed, that they do want to deploy up to 10% of their capital in Bitcoin, and they are not effective with the SEC until January 31st. And that's just one outfit. Imagine all the other high net individuals, institutions, big banks waiting on the sidelines, also waiting to become effective or silently accumulating. Just pay attention, guys. Pay close attention to what's going on, because whales are manipulating the markets. You can see on this graph, on-chain analytics, the Bitcoin blockchain is transparent. So you can see what is going on the blockchain. The number of addresses holding 1,000 Bitcoin or more, so those are whales, just reached an all-time high of 2,426. 2,426. The previous all-time high was also today at 2,425. Since 2010, 12, 14, 16, 18, the amount of whales who own over 1,000 Bitcoin is steadily increasing. As prices go down, they buy up some more Bitcoin. This is a trend that's only going to continue and continue and continue. The whales will be buying up all of the Bitcoin. The last Bitcoin dip, which was last week, I think when Bitcoin drops around 15-12%, you can see the largest, besides the Bitcoin addresses with 10,000, I believe those are probably likely to be exchanges. So if you look at the whale number, 1,000 Bitcoin per wallet, that was an inflow of 4%. And people holding 0.01 Bitcoin had the largest outflow, minus 6.32%. So it clearly shows that whales are gobbling up Bitcoin. When you're selling it, they're buying it up. They manipulate the market and you sell them your Bitcoin. I had friends who I'd been imploring to buy Bitcoin at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 8,000 when it dropped back down to 4,000 last March. And they finally jumped in around the $38,000, $40,000 mark. And then they sold their Bitcoin when Bitcoin dropped down to 36,000. It's these whales, the richest people on the planet, are who you're selling your Bitcoin to. I don't know how else to articulate that, guys. You can just look at Google Trends data as well. And Coinbase, which is the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the world by number of users, not by trading volume. That is Binance. You can see the all-time high for people searching for Coinbase in Google was back in 2017. So we're nowhere near that at the moment. We were almost 49% of that. But when the Bitcoin price dipped, it seems like retail investors, small investors, are no longer interested in buying Bitcoin. And it's the whales that are interested in scooping up the Bitcoin. If you look at the search term for buy Bitcoin, Again, when Bitcoin price dipped on the 8th of January, this is the last 90 days people searching to buy Bitcoin, we've had a steady drop and increase. People only seem to be interested in buying Bitcoin when the price is high. The aim of the game is to buy low, sell high in any asset class, whether that's gold, property, stocks, whatever it is. Why do people rush and flock to buy stocks, shares, whatever it is when the price is high, but they're not interested when the price is low? It fascinates me, but last I'm going to say on this, guys, the market is extremely volatile. If you cannot handle the volatility, then cryptocurrency probably isn't the market for you. This is a chart of the last bull run when we ran up to 20,000 back in December 2017. There were dips of up to 37%. Then we went up 136%, dip of 34%. We went up 76%, dip of 29%. We went up 219%, dip of 38%. Then we went up 166%, dip of 40%. Then we went up 556%. It's part of the market. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does often rhyme. So we might not have such wild dips, but expect volatility. Next up, the former Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers, has said Bitcoin is here to stay. He was speaking at an interview, and when asked if Bitcoin was a bubble, he says, "I'm not going to predict its fluctuations over the next 6 months, but I think some institutions like it. It's here to stay. I don't think the whole thing is going to collapse. I think that having a run up and then run way down and then a move back, it looks more resilient. And therefore, I think people are going to move towards it. And as people move towards it, given the finiteness of its supply, that's going to be a factor working to raise prices." So this is one of America's top economists. He served as director of White House National Economic Council in the Obama administration, as president of Harvard University, and as the chief economist of the World Bank. So, another traditional finance economist believing in Bitcoin. I wouldn't be surprised if he's loaded up his bags. Next up, former Canadian Prime Minister believes Bitcoin is a potential reserve currency. He said in an interview, "It's hard to see what the alternative to the US dollar as a world major reserve currency could be, as the US dollar is so widely adopted across the world. Global trade is transacted in the US dollar, and pretty much every central bank holds USD in their reserves, just like gold, but a lot of USD." He then goes on to say, "However, gold and BTC can stand a chance. While the number of assets that the general public would use as reserves will increase in the future, the US dollar would still be the most used asset." It's just very, very interesting to see that Bitcoin, which has only been in existence for 12 years, gets mentioned alongside gold, which we've had for 5,000 years. So just pay attention, guys. Follow the money. See what the big names are doing. See what the smartest names in the game are doing. And see how the attitude towards Bitcoin is changing. Next up, Janet Yellen urges Congress to act big on the virus stimulus and not to worry about debt. That money printer goes. So the newly elected US Treasury Secretary has urged Congress to act big and ignore surging national debt in the face of the continuing coronavirus. She told lawmakers that the incoming administration would focus on winning quick passage of its $1.9 trillion pandemic relief plan, which is to be funded by borrowing on top of the near $3 trillion in support delivered during the crisis to date. So the stimulus package, which will include sending over $1,400 to each America earning less than $75,000 annually, was criticized by the Republicans. And it's only going to further increase the US's national debt, which stands at $27 trillion. Isn't really much further to say here, as these governments around the world continue to print more fiat currency. they're increasing the currency pool. As a result, desirable investable assets, be it real estate, stocks, commodities, metals, gold, or Bitcoin, and especially Bitcoin, these desirable investable assets are going to increase in price as people place their money in these assets to preserve their wealth. It's going to happen, guys. Whether it's gold, stocks, whatever you choose to invest your money in. I invest in cryptocurrencies, and I believe Bitcoin is going to be the winning horse here. These prices are going to inflate to suck up that increased currency pool with all this money printing. So yeah, I guess Bitcoin's going to rise. So yeah, thanks guys for watching. That's the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment on your thoughts below. Where do you think Bitcoin's going? It really does help with the YouTube algorithm, helps push the channel to more people, so more of us can benefit from cryptocurrency investing. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Ciao.